Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to continue solving systems of equations by elimination. But now we're going to work on some problems that are a little bit harder than what we did on Tuesday. So again, make sure that you're doing the one that says part 2. And here are my steps again. We're going to line up like terms. So x's need to line up with x's, y's need to line up with y's. Then we're going to multiply each equation so that one variable has the same coefficient in each equation. So on Tuesday, step 2, we didn't really have to worry about it because I gave you problems that already had the same variable. Today, we're going to be having to use this step 2. We're going to have to multiply. Step 3, eliminate the variable and solve for the others. Step 4, plug in the value so you can solve for the first one. Step 5, write it as an ordered pair. And again, just a reminder, ordered pairs are always going to be x comma y. Okay, so let's just get straight into the example. So I have 4x minus 5y equals 22. And then x plus 7y equals negative 11. So like I said, step 1 is to make sure that they're lined up. So x with x, y with y. So we're good there. But then you also need to check to see if one of them has the same coefficient. So I have 4, and then over here invisible 1. So those are not the same. Over here I have negative 5 and 7. Those are not the same. So this is what I was talking about. We're going to have to do step 2. We're going to have to multiply so that they have the same coefficient. The easiest way to do this is if one of them has a coefficient of 1, which in our case, yes, right here, there's an invisible 1. So how do I make this x be the same as this x? 1 times what would give me 4? So I know it seems silly, but of course you're just going to multiply by 4. But if you multiply this by 4, that entire equation needs to get multiplied. So the whole second equation, we're going to multiply it by 4. So the first equation, equation number 1, I'm just going to rewrite it. 4x minus 5y equals 22. But that second equation, let's multiply that 4. So 4 times x gives me 4x. 4 times 7 would give me 28. And then 4 times negative 11 equals negative 44. So now that I multiplied by 4, just check it out. The x's are still lined up. The y's are still lined up. But now I have a variable where the coefficient is the same. They are both 4. So now, just like on Tuesday, we are going to subtract to eliminate. So let's subtract that second equation. 4 minus 4 is 0, so I'm not even going to write it out. Then here I have negative 5 minus 28. So what is negative 5 minus 28? That gives me negative 33. Y equals. And then the last part, 22 minus negative 44. So again, be careful with the minus negative. Minus negative is going to make this turn into a plus sign. So what is 22 plus 44? 66. But I'm still not done solving for y. I have one more step. I need to divide by negative 33. Which will give me y equals, what is 66 divided by negative 33? That's going to give us negative 2. So here's my y value. Okay, but I still need to go back and solve for the x value. So I'm going to take my first equation there. So the first equation, let me just rewrite it. 4x minus 5y equals 22. But instead of y, I'm going to plug in this negative 2 that we just got. So this would be 4x minus 5, parentheses, negative 2 equals 22. Let's multiply that. So what is negative 5 times negative 2? Give us positive 10. And then from here, it's a two-step equation to solve for x. First, I would subtract 10 from both sides, which gives me 4x equals 12. Then I would divide by 4, which gives me x equals 3. Okay, so now that I have both x and y, what is the solution to this system of equations? Okay, so remember it's always x first and then y, so this is going to be 3 comma negative 2. Okay, so now let's move on to the next example. So I have 3x minus 8y equals 7, and then 6x plus 3y equals 33. So check to see that the variables are lined up, so x's are with x's, and y's are with y's, so we're good there. Then we need to see if we have any coefficients that are the same. 3 is not the same as 6. 8 is not the same as 3. So nothing is the same. So that means that we're going to have to fix it. So there's no coefficients of 1. That's what we did with the first equation. So I am going to have to multiply by something other than what I have. So what we're going to look for when there's no coefficients of 1 is our least common multiple, LCM, of each variable. What that means is, so right here with the x's, out of 3 and 6, what is their least common multiple? What is the smallest number that both of them would multiply to? In this case, it's 6, because 3 times 2 would give me 6. 6 times 1 would give me 6. So there's that. Here with 8 and 3, their least common multiple is 24. So you're always going to go with the one that's smaller because there's less steps. So in this one, we're going to fix the x part. So you see that smaller number 3. What would I have to multiply it by for it to become 6? I would need to multiply by 2, which means I need to do that to the entire equation. Okay, so let's multiply that out. What is 2 times 3? 6x. What is 2 times negative 8? That's negative 16y. And then 2 times 7 gives me 14. Now on the second equation, I already have 6x. I don't want it to change because I want it to stay the same as the other one. So this one, I'm gonna rewrite it underneath. Okay, and same as before, I want to eliminate that x. So the way we're gonna do that is by subtracting the entire equation. So now I have 6 minus 6 gives me 0, so I'm not gonna write it. Negative 16 minus 3 gives me negative 19y equals, and then 14 minus 33. What is 14 minus 33? That gives me negative 19. So I'm trying to solve for y here. So one more step, divide both sides by negative 19. So y equals negative divided by a negative is a positive, and when they're both the same number, that's just 1. Okay, but I still need to go back and solve for x. So I'm going to take our first equation. So before we did any multiplying, just the first equation, 3x minus 8y equals 7. But instead of y, I'm going to plug in 1 right there. So it's going to become 3x minus 8 times 1 equals 7. 3x What is negative 8 times 1? Just negative 8 equals 7. So from here, it's just a two-step equation to figure out what the value of x is. First, I would add 8 to both sides, which gives me 3x equals 15. Then we divide by 3. So x equals 5. And now that I have both x and y, what is the solution to this system of equations? 5, 1. Okay, and then one last example. 4x minus 2y equals negative 22. 3x plus 5y equals 29. So make sure that your variables are lined up. X is lined up with x, y is lined up with y. Then look at your coefficients. 4 is not the same as 3. 2 is not the same as 5. So we're going to have to do some multiplying so that we can get the same coefficient somewhere. So because we did on the other two examples, so here we canceled out x and we solved for y first. Here we also canceled out x and solved for y first. Let's do it a different way and let's cancel out the y so that we can solve for x. So look closely at those two y values, negative 2y, and this one is positive 5y. I need them to become the same number, so I need the least common multiple of 2 and 5, which is going to be negative 10. But the easiest way to do this, so say you're not good at finding least common multiple, what you're going to do is just multiply by the opposite number. So this first equation, I'm going to multiply it by something, but what do I multiply by? So since I'm trying to cancel out the y, I'm going to multiply it by the coefficient of the other y. So I'm going to multiply by 5. Okay, the second equation, I also need to multiply it to fix it. Since we decided that we're trying to cancel out the y's, I'm going to multiply by the coefficient of the other one, which is, include the minus sign, negative 2. So we're going to have to multiply both equations. Let's start with the top one. 5 times 4 is 20, x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, y. And then 5 times negative 22, which gives me negative 110. Okay, second equation, what is negative 2 times 3? That gives me negative 6x. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10y. And then negative 2 times 29, which gives us negative 58. So now I know they look like completely different equations, but we multiplied by the same number every single time, and it fixed for us. Because now not only are the variables aligned, I have one that has the same coefficient in both equations. So that means we're going to cancel out those y's. And how are we going to do that? By subtracting the second equation. So 20 minus negative 6. Remember that minus negative will turn this to a plus. So what is 20 plus 6? 26x. Then I have negative 10 minus negative 10. Minus negative turns to a plus. So negative 10 plus 10 just gives me 0. So I'm not going to write it. And then lastly, I have negative 110 minus negative 58. Again, with the minus negative, that's going to turn this to a plus. So what is negative 110 plus 58? That gives us negative 52. Then I'll divide both sides by 26. So our x value is negative 2. Okay, but that is only the x value. I still need to go back and find the y. So I'm going to go to my first equation, 4x minus 2y equals negative 22. But for x, I'm going to plug in the negative 2 that we just found. So it's going to be 4 times negative 2 minus 2y equals negative 22. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8 minus 2y equals negative 22. Again, it's just a two-step equation from here. So what is the value of y? The first thing I would need to do is add 8 to both sides. Which gives me negative 2y equals negative 14. Then divide by negative 2 on both sides. So y equals, remember that a negative divided by a negative is going to give me a positive number. So this is positive 7. Now that I have my x value and my y value, I can say what the solution to this system is. What is our solution? So remember, it's always x first and then y. So it is negative 2, 7. Okay, guys, and that is it for solving systems of equations with elimination. These are the harder problems because we had to do our multiplying. It's not always going to be this hard. If you have any questions, make sure that you send me an email or a private message through Google Classroom.